Hi, I'm Ryguy, and well, my ship just crashed on another planet. I have 100 days of oxygen remaining on my ship, meaning I have to survive 100 days on an alien planet. Now, before I begin, I gotta let you know that this planet is full of alien life that all wants to kill me. Like this guy and this ugly fella. Can I survive 100 days and find a way off this planet? I sure hope so, because I only need 4 fuel cores to fix my ship, and then I'm saved. Let's hope I can find them. Now, before we begin this insane challenge, make sure to hit that subscribe button because this is only the beginning of some of the most amazing Minecraft challenges to come. I'm not kidding. We have some crazy, crazy challenges to come, so make sure you hit that sub button because you're not going to want to miss them. Let's begin. Day 1. So on the first day, things were pretty basic. I quickly made a small farm for food and took a look around my ship to see what kind of area I had landed in. I encountered what appeared to be some sort of giant alien spider.
Oh, what is that? Oh, it's still chasing me. What is this?
That came from some sort of egg sac thing. But anyway, they attacked me, and I attacked them, and after a brief battle that almost cost me my life right off the bat,
We lived with half a heart.
I had secured some loot. I used that loot to upgrade my spacesuit and used it to venture out even farther. I made my way out to an area just below where my ship had crashed, and I encountered another much scarier alien that was shooting at me with some sort of bow. After defeating it, I made my way up to some structure I found, and when I entered, I realized it was some sort of alien hive hangout place. I was gonna go in and test my luck, but quickly had to flee once I realized that I'm gonna die if I stay. So instead, I went and explored some of the surrounding area, ran into this guy, and this guy, and eventually found myself in the middle of a purple forest with a crashed ship. Unfortunately, that ship had no loot at all, so I decided to head home. Day 2 happened sometime while I'm in the middle of day 1, and I don't actually know when it happened, but I noticed it's day 2, so I decided to stop exploring.
Oh, we're on day 2. We're on day 2.
I struggled to get home. I finally get home, and I build a safety wall around the base. Light it up to reduce the amount of Endermen that have been spawning in and around the base.
On the ground, they look totally different.
And call it a day. Day number 3, I decided to do some more exploring. I found some awesome sulfuric vents that were spitting out fog. I ended up fighting another spider hive during all this, and I decided to go deeper into this like volcano-y vent biome. I ended up finding another structure there.
Oh! Where'd that even come from? Oh, I see he's right in front of me.
I end up finding another structure there, and I end up referring to these structures as hives. So I call that purple building I found before Hive 1, and the one I just found in this vent area, Hive number 2. My builders are really, really excited to be building all these hives in this storyline for me, so I'm assuming they've definitely laid some traps around here because they seemed very excited when I told them I was going to Hive 2. So I make my way back to Hive number 1 and try to take that over instead. I fight some aliens inside before noticing there's 5 in there.
Oh, hello there!
Oh, there's 3 of them in there! Oh, there's 5! Oh, nope!
And I have to run away because I don't have good enough armor to deal with them. I create a bow, I go back out to explore, and I end up getting attacked by a bunch of Endermen again.
I think I just upset Enderman. I did. Oh, we beat him. Yeah, let's go! Fight me now, Ender loser!
I then have to make my way all the way back to that volcano biome because there's still tons of time left in this day. So I end up heading to the top of one and learn that they are actually just water inside. The smoke is making me float. The bubbles are making me float. So I end up returning home with my loot from the spiders, go back out, loot even more spiders, and that's kind of just how the day went.
Never mind! That was a ton of spiders! Oh, that's a lot of spiders!
By day number 4, I was exploring the world again, and I actually had a goal in mind. I wanted to go farther than the purple lands that I'd actually gone out to before. After heading out pretty far, I stumble across an orange biome that's followed by an end fortress. It was a struggle, but I was able to go through and loot the entire end fortress. Inside of the fortress, I put on this amazing loot, but I didn't realize it at the time. That chest plate had Curse of Binding. Yeah. And I don't realize how big of a mistake this is yet, but this ends up being a massive, massive mistake. But anyway, while heading back to the base, I stumble across another end fortress and quickly head to the ship and grab the elytra inside and the gear inside. And this is where I realized my Curse of Binding mistake, which would go on to slow me down for like 20 days.
Oh no!
So I loot the end fortress's remaining gear and head back to base. I head down to hive number 1 and end up going for a few of the spider sacks and the giant blueberries that keep attacking me, and they're just annoying. But anyway, I notice some odd structures in the distance and decide to head back to my ship. Now, from here, I actually go back to hive 1 and begin raiding the hive. I end up failing the raid again because some giant alien brutes appeared who kind of prevented me from doing anything because every time they hit me, I got poisoned. So while I did get some of the loot, I failed to even get to the final room just because of the sheer number of aliens that were in there. By day number 6, things were going a little bit more smoothly. I headed out, I kept exploring the world, and while exploring, I came across this crazy rainbow floating island with lava flowing out of it. That place was really insane, and I was gonna go to it, but it definitely looked dangerous, and I could tell you with almost complete certainty that my builders are the ones who made that, which means I'm not gonna touch it yet because I'll probably die. So on the way back from the Rainbow Island, I decide to run into Hive 1 and see if I can get into that final room and run out really fast. I actually successfully finally get what is in that final room, and it turns out it's an iron block.
An iron block! I got an iron block! Yes!
So I bring the iron block back to my ship, put it in its spot, and I've successfully gotten the first of 4 of my fuel blocks. I head back to the hive to see if there was any loot I missed, and there wasn't anything. Day number 7. I find a crash ship while exploring, and I find what appears to be some sort of old campsite thing. I find some supplies there and a log from a man named Commander Wallace. Now, my builders definitely did this because they told me once I found something from Commander Wallace, their story was going to begin. So I knew this was the beginning of a much longer story that my builders were setting up for me. So after stealing Commander Wallace's chair and some of his other loot, I sprint back to my base and I go through the logs that I found there. And when I'm going through Commander Wallace's logs, I figure out that there was a man named Commander Wallace who crashed on this planet a long time ago. So after getting a little information from the logs about the aliens and what the species are like on this planet, I go out to explore the world to see some more stuff and see if I can find a new direction to head in. Because I knew where a couple structures were, but that's really all I had. And while exploring, I hear some terrifying noises. And I end up just retreating. Day number 8, I continue outward and explore some more areas. I find a structure out in the orange biome and decide not to enter because I'm not completely prepped for it. I raid a previously found temple, take all the remaining loot, and get out of there. While inside of the end temple, at some point it turns to day 9. I keep looting, I head home, and it takes all day just to get home. And so, just like that, that's day 9. This is the day I end up finally clearing hive number 1 and creating a cobblestone generator. So I go through, I destroy all of the spawners that I find in there, and I notice that with lava and water, I can create a cobblestone generator, so that's what I do. During this time, I also got a bed. So these first 10 days had actually taken us many hours to record, and I realized that these 100-day challenges are near impossible to complete if you do not have a bed, because you'll be awake for 33 hours. So with the magic of data packs and command blocks, we actually set up a bed that I could sleep in inside of my ship that would fast forward through the night. And it would automatically add a full night's time passed once I slept in the bed. So that was awesome that was finally working, and now my days were going to be going by much quicker. So by day 11, now that I have a bed that lets me sleep, things are moving much more smoothly. I end up baiting some Endermen so I can get some more E-pearls.
Yeah, take this!
Before beginning on a massive project to build a gigantic wall around my entire biome area. So I go back and get more cobblestone at the cobble generator. I spend the entire rest of day 11 and the entire day of day 12 just gathering cobblestone. By day 13, I go out and I finish the wall. And once the wall is finished, I decide to see if I can finally get rid of my curse of binding chest piece.
I don't know if this will work, but I think I should be able to get rid of it by taking damage head on.
I end up fighting a slime and an Enderman. I decide to let me back into a corner. I take a ton of damage from them, but it doesn't work because, you see, that curse of binding chestplate also has mending, so it's healing itself. So this does not work at all. And so from there, I basically just have to move on, and I decide to read through a Commander Wallace log. I go into an area by the volcanoes that has a ton of alien things, and I notice some things while I'm there, like a farm, a water source, and some other things. I also find a way to swim down into the volcano, but I don't find anything inside, so I kind of just leave. So on day 14, I decide to head back to that alien hideout and take on some of those aliens, but after fighting for a bit, I almost die, so I have to retreat. I then explore a few more areas around that I've never been to just to see what's kind of in those areas, and I find a portal-y thing and keep exploring. Day 14 is kind of a basic, boring day. Day 15, I'm still out exploring, and I eventually make my way back to my ship. I then go and take on the second hive for a third time. I actually beat it this time, take control of it, find a bunch of awesome loot with potions and fishing rods. Luckily, one of the potions they gave me was a water breathing potion, so I could swim down into the waterway below the volcano and stay there for a long period of time. So I go down, I check out what the volcanoes lead to. There's some awesome glowy flowers and the place looks really cool underwater, but no real loot, so I leave. Again, the volcanoes seem to lead to nothing, and so I'm kind of on my own. After this, I head back to the ship. On day 16, I make my way back to hive number 2, and since my underwater potion is still active, I decide to head back down into the volcano. And while swimming around down there, I noticed not only some vents, but I found another one of my energy blocks under the water inside of the volcano. So I continue to check out underwater to see if there's any other secrets down there, because if there's a block, there's likely other secrets. Unfortunately, I don't find anything and decide to head home. But luckily, it doesn't matter. I found another power block, so I put the power block in its place where it belongs, and I decide to do a bit more exploring. I fight a few Endermen, get some Ender Pearls, and then I go off and do some more exploring before I find a massive broken portal by a large tree. So yeah, day 17 happens sometime during all this craziness. I find an area I don't remember in the giant tree. I've been to this giant tree several times, and this area was not here. So I'm assuming my builders did it. It had some loot, so I'm not gonna complain. After this, I climb the big tree and locate a bunch of spider hives on top. I take them all on, get tons of loot from the battle before heading home. Day 18 was a day full of craziness. So day 18, I decide to go and explore some more, and I start to go out over the walkways I had made to the bridge between the islands. I make my way to the weird crystal lava thing and have a look inside. I go inside and begin fighting some of the aliens. And after almost dying to these aliens, I have to retreat again, heal up before heading all the way back in and examining the area. This time I don't fight them, I just kind of examine the area. I realize, though, I can't break these crystals. The crystals don't break. So I have to break through the rocks to the side of the crystals, and I use these to get a hole inside of this hive, and I start blasting the mobs below. The problem is there were so many mobs spawning, there was really no way I was gonna get inside this place without better gear. So after blasting a few of them, I decide I should probably just take my leave. And I do. On day 19, I go farm for some food, and I get some stuff from the farm at Hive 2. I bring it home, and I cook it. It was a pretty simple day. I needed food. I had to prep for that hive. So day 19 was really simple. I wanted food. On day 20, I decided I should probably go explore through that pink biome some more. While I have gone in that direction and seen some stuff over in that direction, I haven't really looked too far in that direction, so I decided I probably had to head out more. So I found another broken portal while I was over that way, and also, out of the corner of my eye, I saw another hive, but I wasn't really worried about it right now. I mean, let's be honest. I struggled to take on the other hives. How the heck am I supposed to take on this one? I'm not. So I go ahead and I leave it be, but I end up finding another end fortress during all this time, and I raid it and get tons of awesome loot. So this all worked out to be very good. Day 21. It actually turned to day 21 as I was walking home. I find a crashed ship, and it almost takes all day to get home. So I store my stuff and sleep. Day 22. Now, day 22 is a little bit more exciting than the last 2 days. I explore outward to the orange biome with all the twisty trees, where I heard these strange sounds.
What is that noise I keep hearing? No, it's passive. It's a passive.
Now, after a little more exploring in the pink biome, I go and just simply mine some cobblestone to end off the day. Day 23. I decided to go out to the third hive again and take it on. This time, I actually successfully beat it. This one was a really hard fight to get through, but luckily, after just a lot of beating things up, I was able to do it. And at the end of it, I actually got another one of those fuel cells
The gold block.
that I could bring back to my ship. So I headed home and immediately went to sleep. The next day, I quickly put the fuel cell in its place, leaving only one fuel cell remaining till I can leave this planet forever. I only have 76 days of oxygen left, so unless this last fuel cell is going to take 76 days, I think I'm gonna be fine. The rest of the day, I spend building a bridge across the lake to my base. It doesn't work.
Well, I built a rope bridge, but it doesn't really work that well.
On day 25, I head back to the area that's covered in fog where I heard the strange sounds, and after looking around for a bit this time, I actually locate a spawner and break it. That's when I notice that there's a meteor on the ground nearby, which I actually ignore because I find the strange creature making the noise. It turns out it was an alien pig, so I head home after the discovery, and nothing ventured, nothing gained. Day 26. Day 27. I go back to the area where I found the odd-sounding monsters in the foggy area, and I head back to the meteor that I had seen before. Inside was a ton of magma. I was hoping there would be an item, but I couldn't locate a chest or anything, so the magma was all I got. But the magma was super useful. It was my first thought that could remove my curse of binding chest plate that was preventing me from flying around this area. So I take the magma, and I head to go get some cobblestone. I then go back to my base, do a quick patch job of the area near my back door, and I get rid of all my enchantment levels by enchanting a bunch of different shovels. I'm doing this because my chestplate also has mending, so I have to do this to make sure the chestplate does not automatically repair itself when I try to destroy it. It takes the entire rest of the day of day 27 just to begin breaking the armor. Day 28 was spent literally just breaking the rest of the armor. It took the entire day to destroy this chest plate. So finally the magma came in handy, and with all the enchantment levels gone and no mending that can heal it, the chest plate was destroyed, and I can finally use my elytra, but not after I hit the hay. Once I wake up from sleeping, I take my first elytra trip. And loot an end fortress. The end fortresses now have a lot more value because I can loot the elytra and actually use them. And I can get the elytra super easy because I already have a pair. I just head home and head back to sleep. I decide to head out and explore some more now that I have elytra, and I check out a couple of crashed ships past the third alien hive. I find an end temple about 5 minutes in, and it does have a ship with elytra. So obviously I go ahead and I grab the elytra from the ship. I continue looting afterward, and I find another end temple with more elytra and more loot, and this is all just great. So after this, I head back home and I sleep. So after waking up from day 30, I store all the loot that I'd gotten from the end fortresses the day before, and then I head out to find another end fortress and more elytra. I also see a massive crystal biome that looks amazing that I'd never seen before, so I check it out for a little bit before heading home and sleeping. On day 32, I fly out and head to hive number 4, since I've checked it out already a few times, and I decide to peek inside.
Here we are.
I saw lava.
Ooh, there's lava. I gotta be really careful in here.
I could hear some aliens up above, and assuming that this was the final hive, I didn't want to go in without a game plan and risk dying. So I headed home after checking it out for a little bit and simply went to bed. Day 33 is where things start to get really interesting with this final hive. So I start the day by working on getting the best gear setup in armory since I was getting close to that final fuel cell. I make my way out to hive number 4 and take on hordes of aliens I find inside. With my current armor loadout, I have little problems taking on the hive, though I do almost die in the lava at one point.
Ooh, lava, 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 oh god.
After getting to the second floor of the hive, there were literally hundreds of spiders and other alien creatures. I defeat all of them in a massive battle, and I find one of the ancient portals inside the hive. It's kind of the closest I've been to one. These portals definitely seem important with the amount of times they keep popping up, but I'm not really worried about them right now, because I just need to worry about getting this final fuel cell. As I head up to the roof, I find some more information from Commander Wallace. I also do locate the final fuel block that I need to head home.
Oh, I got it!
So I destroy some egg sacs on the tree on the roof before I make my way home and sleep. I wake up and I put that last fuel cell in place immediately.
Boom, we have them all!
Repair all the holes in the ships, put the blast furnace in its proper place, and I'm ready to take off and head back to Earth. I get all of the fuel in place, all the proper items where they need to go, and everything else you need to get a ship to launch.
It's time to test our liftoff. Goodbye, alien planet!
And when I start the ship for takeoff,
Here we go. Once I hit this white button, we should be good for takeoff in 3, 2, 1, go!
nothing happened. Yeah, I had a few engine sputters, but it doesn't work. The ship must have taken too much damage on entry, and now it can't fly anymore, apparently. Meaning now, I really am trapped on an alien planet with no way to escape. I have 66 days of oxygen left, and after this, I quickly read the Wallace logs for any information about this planet on how to get off, because now I'm almost in the exact same situation Wallace found himself in with a broken ship and trying to find a way off the planet. Hopefully Wallace's logs are going to help me get a way off, otherwise I am going to die on this planet. Day 35. Today is a fresh day. I have to start seeing if there's any other ways off this alien planet now that my ship is basically just an overpriced tent. I immediately head to one of those portal things that Wallace has mentioned in his books before, and also that I found to be semi-important. Once there, I find a passage up a tree, and I decide not to really go deeper in because I was really just there to test the portal out. I didn't really have much luck testing the portal, and I couldn't really solve anything on this day, so I just kind of headed home, did some work around the house, and went to sleep. On day 36, I headed out and began to gather some more loot. Since my stay was now going to be a lot longer, I kill a spider egg, gather the loot inside, and then make my way inside of the water below the volcanoes to see if there's anything good down there. I haven't really done too much down there beyond gather a few of the main quest items that I'd had to get so far. But down there was really just glowy plants. Yeah, that's it. There really is nothing else down there. So after checking it out, I head home once again with little to show for it, beyond building a quick rope ladder. And that's really it. I head to bed. So on day 37, I made my way back to the tree that had the entrance in it that I found on day 35. It appears to be another alien hive, so I'm very careful going forward. I climb inside of the massive tree, fighting through aliens to reach the top, and when I finally do, I find chests that have some crazy loot. The first chest I loot has an OP trident that returns to me after I throw it.
Cool, it comes back to me.
And at the other chest, I found a makeshift grappling hook that could hook onto things. So, yeah, at least things were starting to turn around. On day 39, I wake up and find alien dogs outside my base. Now, I know as a fact that these alien dogs were not outside my base before. So I know as a fact that my builders totally put them there. So regardless, I befriend them because I'm assuming they're going to come in handy down the line, seeing as my builders kind of put them there. So they must be important. That's when I follow one of Commander Wallace's logs to some coordinates that lead to a purple alien village. This village has a portal in the center, and I find some information regarding Commander Wallace inside. I find a bunch of different Wallace logs here that all give me information of another way I might be able to get off this planet, using the portals. Meaning my original theory of the portals being important was definitely true, because Wallace even mentions that he could see a blue and green land through the portals. That means it was likely Earth, meaning the portals are a way I can get off this planet. After figuring out this exciting news, I head home and sleep. When I wake up again, I read through the Wallace logs again to keep gathering information. The books give me a few leads, but I decide to look more into the portal that Wallace had mentioned. I head back to the small purple village to examine the portal that was there. After this, I head to some coordinates that were mentioned by Wallace to see what might be there. I come across yet another hive that seems to have a bunch of awesome loot. A full enchanting table, netherite ingots, a book with even more info? Before I can loot the place though, there were too many mobs that had spawned in, so I decide I'll have to come back another time to get the rest of the loot. Day 41. On day 41, I decide to look for more elytra because I'm starting to run low. While looking around, I actually see another meteor and decide to break it open. This one actually does have a chest inside that has tons of rockets. This confuses me because the first meteor I found didn't have a chest inside of it. So I decide to go double check and I head back to the first meteor where I find even more rockets. I had just missed them before. I take this as a win because even though I didn't get elytra, I needed rockets as well. So I take the rockets and I head home. I continued my search for more elytra on day 42. I quickly find a new pair, grab it, and run. I don't really care to loot all of the end fortresses now because I already have good armor and stuff, so I really just need lots of elytra. Because the elytra get damaged really fast, especially with the amount I'm flying around. I decide to head home, store my stuff, and then build my dogs a quick little doghouse. And also build a massive elytra tower that I can take off from. I made my way back to the purple village to check out the portal and see if I could somehow fix it and activate it. After a quick look around, I realized that it's probably not going to be possible, and I'm better off using the two complete ones that I've found so far. I leave this village and make my way to the nearby hive to finish looting it. Once again, the mobs spawn in so fast that I decide to leave because I don't want my good armor to just get absolutely annihilated. On day 44, I go back to the hive and finally finish looting it. I get a book, TNT, and more. I read the book and notice that there's coordinates inside of it that are going to actually be really, really useful. So I go ahead, take these coordinates home, and rest. On the 45th day, I noticed how much elytra I really needed, so I decided to go out and find some more. I stumbled across a bunch of different end fortresses. Not all of them had ships, but I ended up with quite a few more elytra, so it worked out in the end. And you guessed it, on the next day, I did the exact same thing. I went out to get even more elytra and also decided to explore some new directions now that I could use the wings. I end up finding not a single new pair, actually. I kind of botched it. I didn't get any new pairs of elytra on this day, and I kind of had to head back with no loot to show for it, so oops. So the next day, I decided it would be much more productive, especially after wasting a pair of elytra on day 46. Day 47, I was not going to let that happen. So I launched off the elytra tower, and I decided I needed more. So I went out looking for some fortresses, and I found a ton of elytra. We're talking a minimum of 3, and I think there may have been a 4th in there, but I couldn't find it on the footage.
Nope.
I luckily got a bunch of new pairs, and that's really all that matters. I ended up looting an end city as well, got some extra loot, and that was really the end of day 47. I head out once again, and I find an end city with no elytra. I loot part of it and decide to leave, so yeah, that was really it. I ended up flying around, ended up in a biome I'd never seen. I will say though, when I landed in the biome I'd never seen, there were these really creepy shadow men that like slowly walked towards me and made creepy sounds. I had to get out of that area fast, so I just went home and slept after that, because that was honestly terrifying. Day 49, I'm still on that elytra grind. So I go ahead, I find another end ship, I will say, the shulker booped out of existence when I went to go and grab it, so that was interesting. But anyway, from here, I made my way through the end fortress, looted tons of stuff inside. From here, I went to go check out a jelly tree biome in more detail because I'd never really checked them out, and I wasn't sure if there was any mobs in that area that I might have to fight. Turns out there really wasn't anything. So I took back to the skies in search of more elytra, and I luckily stumbled across... Okay, maybe not lucky. It was the most puny end fortress I'd ever seen. I mean, look, it's legit just a tiny little tower. Anyway, so I quickly made myself at home, took all their loot, and left. And then I went home. On day 50, I did something new. Just kidding, I wanted to get more elytra. So I went out, I went exploring, I got myself another pair of elytra, and after this, I find another end fortress, but this one obviously didn't have a ship, so there's no elytra. So I just took the basic stuff inside before taking my leave. Once again, I fly around for a little bit, hoping I'll find another fortress, and sure enough, I do. This one had elytra, so I just take those and leave, and then decide to head home. But luckily, on my way home, I find another pair of elytra, and obviously I take that too before heading home and sleeping. Now that I've grinded out a ton of elytra, I feel like I'm in a good place. I don't need to worry about elytra for a little while, so I decide we need to start reading through some of these Commander Wallace logs and go over some of the coordinates I had found. The book also mentions information about a blue and green land that can be seen through some of those ancient portals I've seen around, meaning the portals likely lead back to Earth. Now that's some great information. That means there is a way I can get home. Anyway, now that I am stocked up on tons of elytra and I can make my way to some of these far out coordinates, I think it's time to start checking them out. So I decide to use my log that I've had since day one and write down all the important coordinates I could find. With coordinates organized, I fly out to go investigate them. At the first set of coordinates, I located a village hidden inside of a crystal biome, surprisingly not too far from my base. I've flown by it several times and literally have never seen it, so I don't know when my builders put it there, but I didn't see it. So this hive is immediately different than any of the hives I've found so far. I noticed the aliens in this hive are actually using technology, which has not been a thing in the previous hives, meaning they might also have a different way off this planet using tech. After fighting some of the aliens, I quickly back off and equip my better armor. I put that on and then began my assault on the hive. I found the location where the aliens were spawning and took care of it. I then made my way down deep into their base and found a bunch of odd things. A lava pit, a book with coordinates, 3 netherite ingots, tons of buckets for just collecting lava, and that is just the stuff that I found useful. This place had tons of loot that was gonna help me, so I took all the loot and made my way back home. Or that was the plan. When I was taking off, I saw a fire in a bed on a cliffside nearby, so I landed there and found an actual old camping ground that Commander Wallace had stayed at. I'm assuming he was spying on this alien village, but I'm not really sure. I took what I could from his campsite that I thought might help me, and then I actually headed home and slept. On day 52, I headed to some of the other coordinates that I had located. I believe that this was going to be a crystal based on what I had read inside the books, but when I got there was no crystal, or anything for that matter. I looked around for a bit, but I really couldn't find anything. I was being attacked by aliens, and I had to run, but since I saw aliens, I knew I was close. I went home, fought a few Endermen in the ship, and slept. On day 53, I made my way back to that area that I was at previously and quickly entered the lake before too many mobs spawned in. Once I was inside, I can see that my builders had set up quite the surprise for me. They literally know that my least favorite thing in Minecraft is parkour. So, of course, they put parkour in front of me. So I actually decided to leave because I don't want to die in lava and ruin this whole challenge. So I take on an Enderman so I can get his Ender Pearl. Once I got an Ender Pearl, I headed back inside to see if I could actually do the parkour, and I would have my E-Pearl ready to save me if I fell in the lava. Luckily, it turned out I didn't fall in the lava. And so I made my way to the end, found another book, not a crystal. Found another book, not a crystal. And I took it and went home. Day 54, I don't know what I was thinking. I decided to start my morning by building a trash can. Looking back, I'm really not sure why I made this. Like, I never used it again. But there it is. That's a trash can. Anyway, from there, I went to the coordinates that were listed in the book that I had found on the previous day. I found out that it led me to one of the volcanoes near my base, specifically inside of it. So inside of it, I had to swim deep down into this water. And this, by the way, this water is not easy to navigate. It's dark, there's glowy plants, and there's also stuff that pushes you in different directions, so it's really just a pain in the butt. So I went ahead and I swam underwater, and I actually did locate a crystal underneath the water. These crystals have actually been described by Commander Wallace in his logs as likely my only chance of getting off of the planet. So I had to test what Commander Wallace was talking about. So I took the crystal that I had found in this volcano, left the volcano, and brought the crystal to the 4th hive that I found way long ago. I remembered that this hive had a completed portal inside of it, so it would be the perfect place to test. So I went inside, fell in some lava, made my way back to the portal, and then I took the crystal and put it on the pedestal. And it started to glow.
Yo!
That means that these crystals do in fact power the portals, and I had confirmed that here. And if I can obtain 5 more crystals, I'm assuming it's gonna activate this portal and I can go home. So with the crystal in place, I made my way back home and I slept. I spent most of day 55 upgrading my gear to netherite gear, or that was the plan, but I didn't realize that I needed a smithing table to upgrade my gear. Yes, I'm that dumb. So I went upgradeless. And after this, I decided I would just fly around and make my way back with the full enchanting table from the other base. I was gonna at least enchant my gear, if nothing else. But once again, being the absolute 200 IQ genius that I am, I forgot lapis. So, no enchantments. I did, however, take the books and the enchanter home, so I wouldn't have to make this trip again. And after this, we went home and slept. Day 56 was a much simpler day. I took the books that I had stolen and I turned them into bookshelves back at my base. My goal was to rebuild the enchanting table here at my base to completion, so I needed a lot more wood to complete it, so I went and gathered some more wood and then finished the enchanting table. After I enchanted some gear, I then upgraded it all to netherite with my newly acquired smithing table. With the new armor, I am now in a much better spot than I was before, and I'm not as worried about any future hives I may encounter now that I have full netherite armor. At day 57, I started the day by trying to figure out what my next move was simply gonna be. So I decided to organize my inventory in chests and all the information I've gotten lately, because there has been a lot of information just thrown my way with different coordinates, so I had to organize it. One of the books had mentioned something about a crest, so that's the one I was gonna head to next. I don't know what this crest is, so I'm gonna have to figure it out when I get there. On the way to the crest, I also noticed that there's a meteor on a rock that I don't think I'd looted up to this point, so I loot it. And it had rockets in it, so that was great. And then after this, I headed home because I realized how late it was and I wasn't gonna make it out to that other place in time. So I went home and I slept. Day 58, I woke up out of bed and immediately started heading to the crest coordinates. I don't know what the crest is, or even if I'm heading to the crest, but I am checking out the coordinates anyway. I finally locate a building on an odd biome. Immediately, I notice some numbers on the ground.
What does that say?
My dumb brain at the time
1893.
assumed that this was likely a year and part of the memorial nearby. I'm sure many of you watching this know exactly what these numbers are for, so good for you. You are smarter than me. Round of applause. Anywho, at this place, I was attacked by tons of endermites, and they literally were everywhere. I'm not even kidding. Inside of a building nearby, I located a massive loot room full of chests. The only problem was, not only were there endermites on the outside attacking me, there were tons of mobs on the inside of this room, so I had to slowly chip away at these mobs, and I took away their ability to spawn. Now that I controlled the chest room, I looted as much of the gear that I possibly could, but I couldn't get it all. There was literally that much loot. So I took what I could and I headed home. The next day, I made my way back to the loot room and obviously gathered the rest of the loot that I could find in there. And this time, actually realized that the numbers on the ground are likely coordinates. I marked them down slightly wrong, but at least my mind was heading in the right direction. I head back home and store the remaining loot. And in this loot, I noticed that there's actually an alien chief's heavy bow gun. And I try it out on some of the surrounding mobs. It's really OP. And so, it's 100% sticking with me. On day 60, I tried to get a bunch of ender pearls by building an area where I could get endermen to attack me. But they didn't give me any ender pearls. So after this, I flew home, attracted a bunch of endermen to my house, and while this did get me a couple ender pearls, it was still barely effective, so day 60 was kind of a failure, but I guess I had to make the most of day 61. So on day 61, I read the book that I got from the alien chief, and I noticed that there's some coordinates and some text that says the tallest spire. So I take down this information and I go check it out. And it turns out right next to my base on the tallest pink spire, there's another crystal.
Oh, it's right here.
Now, this was the second of 6 crystals I needed to get home, and I genuinely didn't think I would find a second one that fast, but I did. So I bring the crystal to the portal and put it on its pedestal. It lights up just like the other one, meaning I'm one step closer to getting home. But there's still a ton of time left in the day, so I head to an end fortress, take some loot that I find there, then head home to sleep. On day 62, I noticed the amount of elytra I had was starting to get low again. And seeing as a single trip was destroying my elytra's durability pretty much on that trip, I had to gather more. After getting an elytra, I head home and repair my 4 damaged ones to create yet another good set of elytra. I went out again with this repaired elytra to look for another end ship. However, I didn't find a single one and returned home empty-handed with just some damaged elytra, so it didn't end up working out that well. On day 63, I head out to the coordinates that were laying on the ground by the alien hive that I had just looted. For those that were paying attention, you're gonna know that I made a slight mistake here that you're about to see the results of. When I head to those coordinates, I actually don't find anything, and that's when I realize that it's possible that I had the Y coordinate and the Z coordinate flipped. And so when I head to the now swapped coordinates, I do find another hive. My new problem was finding the entrance to this hive because this hive had no doors or anything. Normally, these hives have some sort of entryway, but I couldn't find anything. So I flew to the top and I realized that this seems to be some sort of ender ship landing hub thing. I also realized that I've been here.
Have I been here?
I actually looted the elytra on this ship in a previous journey, so looking around, there's tons of stuff here. I mean, I find a netherite ingot, I find a chest full of loot, I even find a jukebox. And after taking just a few more things, I leave, because it's almost time to sleep. So I head back home, sleep, and plan to journey back out into the hive on the next day. So the next day, sure enough, I swoop back into that hive right over the lip of the tree, and I notice some new things like a shulker, a massive lamp, oh, and the fact that this place is just a giant sacrificial altar. Yeah, so with this place being as creepy as it is, I grabbed all the loot as quickly as possible. I even took their lamp in the center, and I was gonna bring it back to my spaceship because iron blocks plus beacon equals goodness. So yeah, I grab another pair of elytra and I leave. So on day 65, I wake up feeling pretty good after being able to complete yet another hive in such a short amount of time. In your face, Luke. From here, I decide I'll organize the new coordinates, which I never end up doing, as well as set up a beacon near my base, which I actually end up doing. And that was really the whole day. On day 66, I actually organized the coordinates like I was supposed to the previous day. I realized that with all the coordinates that I have, a book isn't gonna cut it for organization. So I start taking down my fuel block station and turning it into my brand new coordinate station. Once I finish setting up the coordinates, I fly around looking to anger some Endermen and take their pearls. As day 67 begins, I head out to one of the sets of coordinates and locate an end fortress. I go inside, fly my way to the top, and I loot some chests to see what I find. But it seems like a normal end fortress, so I'm a little bit confused because this is where the coordinates had led me, and there's nothing really out of the ordinary. So at this point, I really didn't get why the coordinates had led me here. So I double checked and I found out that I had missed an underground area. So I head down a long tunnel where I find a cave full of different types of alien spiders and different things. It was awful. There was even an alien spider jockey, okay? Luckily, I made it to the end where I found some really good loot and a totem of undying. Oh, and a book with coordinates. Shocker. On day 68, I wake up and fly around looking for different end ships. I have little luck finding any at first, but luckily locate a few pairs towards the end, and I'm back in business. So unfortunately, yeah, I lost all the footage for days 69 and 70 because they were corrupt. On day 71, I mostly was still flying around looking for elytra and rockets or really anything else that was gonna make travel easier because I was going through elytra faster than a fat kid can run to an ice cream truck. Anyway, I didn't really find anything and decided to head back and decided just to organize what was gonna happen on day 72 instead. And so on day 72, I decided I'm gonna head out to one of the sets of coordinates. These coordinates led me to another crystal. It was the third crystal I needed, meaning I'm halfway there to completing this portal thing and seeing if it actually works. So obviously, I take the crystal back to the portal and I place it on the pedestal. It's glowing just like the others, meaning I was successfully halfway there. And with there still being some time left in the day, I spent it doing probably the most productive thing you can think of: fishing. I headed out to another set of coordinates on day 73, and it unfortunately was in one of those dark biomes with all those shadowy people who like to attack me, so I fight a few of them, and I do notice something. When I light them on fire, I can see that they actually do have a skin and a face. It's kind of creepy, but just thought I'd point that out. I also noticed there's a mostly complete wither spawn, and I keep that in the back of my mind because I'm starting to think this might be some sort of wither farm that the aliens were creating, or a golem farm, because there was also an iron golem in a box. Anyway, I look around this hive and there's all sorts of odd things. There's also a lava powered generator and a ton of different wither items. It's really whack. So I look around for a bit, but I don't really locate anything of interest. There's no books with more information about my journey, and I think there's more stuff there that I'm just not finding, but it's already getting late, so I have to head home. And I'm kind of disappointed because this is the first hive where I couldn't just find the loot. So this one was going to be a bit harder. So on the next day, I make my way back to this wither hive, and this time I notice what appears to be some sort of golem or wither creating machine. But I go ahead and I continue looking around anyway. I head inside a building and I locate a netherite. I also hit a lever that starts telling me a bunch of alien gibberish in chat, but I don't speak alien gibberish, so I have no clue what this is saying. But luckily, I do know the sound of a wither. Yeah, a wither. I hear an explosion and a wither had spawned in. And it was starting to go crazy, attacking literally everything. The shadow men. Me! So I begin to fight this wither, but my weapons are legit not even hurting this thing.
I can't even get to him without a bow.
And when he's flying around, my sword isn't too helpful. So I have to head home, and I have to make a new plan of how I'm going to fight this thing. And I come to the conclusion that an air battle is likely the best way. So day 75 comes around, and I go back to fight this wither. But my bow, it's not even hurting. It's not even hurting this guy. I was gonna need way more stuff to take this guy on. Like, I didn't even stand a chance unless I could use my sword. So with his ability to heal, I don't even know if my sword was gonna be good enough, but it was all I had left. If I was not gonna be able to beat this wither with my bow, I was gonna have to beat him with my sword in the air, which was really not what I wanted to do, so I had to leave. It was the safest thing to do. If I can't beat him in the air or on the ground, it was probably the best that I just leave the wither alone to endlessly fight the shadow people. Well, that's what I wanted to do, but on the next day, my stubborn butt decided to try and fight the wither again. And this time, it almost killed me.
With that, I am out, yo.
So that's karma. And after almost dying, I do realize it's probably for the best that I have to give up fighting this thing, so I actually do, and I head home to never see this thing again. On day 77, I spend most of day 77 at the second hive, using their farm for more food. And after I do this, I do a little home decor, some cooking, and that was really my day. After a stressful wither fight, I wanted an easy day. On day 78, I decided to fly out to another set of coordinates. I had obtained these coordinates from one of the previous hives, I'm not even sure which at this point, and on the way there, I snag an elytra. That was just bonus. After grabbing that, I head to another one of those dark biomes, and I notice a bunker is built into the ground. Inside of this bunker, I find a large set of double doors that I quickly enter. In there, I notice a room full of aliens, along with an alien bathroom. I grab what supplies I find in the room, and I solve a quick puzzle that required me to put some fuel in a furnace, and that opened the next door.
It worked, I knew it.
Inside of that door was an area that led to a mass, I'm not underestimating, a mass amount of aliens. I have to go through this area to get further into the compound, so I begin my assault on this horde. I take on what seems like hundreds of aliens that several times almost kill me. I have to run past this horde of mobs in the end, and I head upstairs to find an area where they even were running a bunch of experiments on all the different life on this planet. It was really weird. So I grab the loot I find there. Anyway, after this, I get out of there and I fly home. On the next day, I head to the coordinates I had collected at the experiment lab, and it leads me to the 4th crystal. I'm now only 2 crystals away from opening this portal, so I place the crystal where it belongs before making my way home. I did some stuff around the ship for the rest of the day, and that was really it. On day 80, I climbed the flight tower and jumped off, and I made my way to another set of coordinates that I had. When I arrived, I didn't see anything at first, until I actually looked up. In the top of the trees was an entire alien hive village thing. So I flew up there and quickly began to gather the loot and fend off the attacking aliens.
What are you? Ah!
I got everything I could and got out of there. On day 81, I decided to look around for loot and luckily found some more rockets and a meteor nearby. The rest of the day, I kept looking for loot and didn't find anything. So day 81, I got a little bit of loot, but that was really it. On day 82, I continued my looting spree, and I find more rockets and an end ship that netted me another set of elytra. And then again, I find a massive end fortress with even more elytra. And this was gonna be useful, especially being in the last 20 days. Elytra is not something I can risk having too few of right now, because if I need to get out in a hurry, I'm gonna need elytra. Before heading home, I find one last pair of elytra before deciding that's enough, and I head back home to finish gathering the rest of the crystals. On day 83, I fly back out to what I think are new coordinates, but I end up realizing I made a mistake, and I went back to the place I'd already been. My bad. Now, I tried to be cool and play it off like it wasn't a mistake by looting some alien chickens, but we all know I wasn't meant to go back there, and we all get to know that secret. So day 84 rolls around, and this time I fly out to the correct set of coordinates. Wow. And I locate an entity that has a red beam of light coming out of the top. Now this time, I'm assuming this entity is related. So I'm assuming I'm at the right spot. I see a ton of spiders, shulkers, and more. This was the first entity I had been to that the aliens had actually taken over. So I looted as much of it as I could, and on the way out was swarmed by Phantom. And I'm not exaggerating here. Look at how many of these things were flying above my head. I decided to fight a few off for their membranes because it repairs elytra, but that's it. Once I hit a few, I got out of there. There was way too many Phantoms for me to take on. On day 85, I fly out to the coordinates that I had located inside of the End Fortress. Once I get to the coordinates, I find the 5th crystal. I snag it, I bring it to the pedestal, only one to go. You know how it works. After this, I headed home, I rested, you know how it goes, day 86. I made my way out to one of the few sets of coordinates that I had left. I was genuinely starting to run low, meaning I think I was getting near the end of my builder's little storyline, meaning I think I'm close to being able to get off this planet. Sure enough, I go to these coordinates and I find an enormous fortress. This fortress is absolutely insane and must be the aliens' main hide area. I mean, it's huge. But this does not look like any hive I've seen before. Even some of the more technologically advanced hives had nothing on this place. It looked just like a military base. We're talking they had missiles, barracks, cafeteria areas, and more. This place was insanely hard to loot due to its sheer size and how spread out everything was. I was able to get a captain's set of armor, a book, and the captain's key. I went ahead and brought that key to a door I had seen earlier and opened up that door, and it led underground. When I was underground, I saw that they had a portal set up along with a bunch of other stuff. This place had info on the portals, the final crystal, and it talked about trying to solve some sort of plague that was going on. Now, I'm not really sure what all this was, to be honest, and I really didn't know anything about this alien plague, but if the alien plague could affect me, I'm gonna have to avoid them from now on. Anyway, after a while, I think I had gotten all the supplies I needed from that place, and I had a new set of coordinates to what I believed was going to be the final crystal. Anyway, now that I think I had all the supplies I needed, and I had the coordinates to that final crystal, I headed home with this final piece of information. On day 87, I made my way to the final crystal's coordinates, and of course, I find it inside a large floating ice star. I grab it, and I'm overcome with relief.
There we go. We have the last eternal crystal. Oh my god.
At finally finding the last crystal. Either this works, or I run out of oxygen in 13 days, and I die. So, this was kind of important. On day 88, I bring the crystal to the 4th hive and place it into its final spot. And nothing happens. That's right. I realized that this portal is not functioning. I'm assuming because it was an alien experiment portal that it wasn't gonna work. So I quickly take all my 6 crystals, which luckily I could take back, and I bring them to a completed portal that wasn't too far from my base. I place the 6 crystals down, and sure enough, the portal opens. And the portal emits this really beautiful glow. It emits this really ominous sound, and it's really cool. And I can't tell where it leads, but I have to check. So I decide to enter. Earth. I was home. I'm back on Earth. But with just a little over 10 days of oxygen still left, I still had a challenge to complete. So I decided I was going to spend the next 10 days or so bringing all of my loot from the planet to Earth to help me survive over here until I'm eventually rescued. Because, I mean, it did bring me into the middle of a snow biome, so I was going to need some stuff. So for the remaining days, I simply gathered all my loot from my ship and brought it through the portal, so all my stuff I worked hard to obtain would not just be lost on some alien planet like Commander Wallace's stuff. And once the loot was all gathered, I waited until it was day 100 before walking through the portal one last time. Surviving 100 days on an alien planet. Challenge complete.